It's a regular. You guys know him, Uncle Rich Klein.
Hey, Uncle Rich here. How y'all doing?
Hey, Uncle Rich.
How's everything going?
Look at that empty stack over his right shoulder.
We've done some. Steph and Angela have done some great work cleaning up this office. Give them the credit, not me.
So can we talk real quick, since we've got Rich and he obviously can offer some insight on the fact that our good buddy Ryan Cracknell with Beckett tweeted out a updated release calendar.
Yes.
And it looks like, for a while there, June 24th was a holding date for 5 or 6 big releases. They just kind of pushed things back tentatively. It looks like, obviously, they're pulling some of that stuff forward. Bowman's releasing on Friday. For now, everything is for now. So
yes,
go to your favorite website that has release calendars, and before you plan. What do we think about that? It looks like Topps is kind of getting back to quote unquote normal for at least a little while, at least tentatively.
Well, I think, you have these products ready to go. Most products have a 10 to 11 month, if I remember correctly, we'll call it life, between when they're created in terms of what they're going to do to when they hit, the marketplace. So a lot of these products were probably ready to be printed, before they hit the marketplace, and so now that the printing press, they're going to need things to do. If they're going to reopen, they need things to do. So get it out. And the June 24th date, if you think about, well, even though other than Topps, they're not public companies, you still call them quarterly earnings.
Right.
And if you think about each 3 months of the year on an economic level, June 24th is about the end of the second quarter. Yeah. So that's probably why that was the holding date for these products.
Well, and when they started pushing stuff back too, it started in March, if I'm not mistaken. So you had May, June. It was like a 60-day window to kind of, we're going to push it back 60 days and then pull forward or continue to push back as the world continues to turn and tells us and dictates. Yeah. So it was just a good date. Now, of course, I had that date. Most baseball card collectors had that date already circled as Christmas and summer, because if none of this had happened, June 24th was going to be the original release date for the best product of the year, which is Stadium Club.
Yeah,
that's a wonderful product in terms of the photos.
It's the best. It's the best for photos, absolutely. And Dave, quick question. We had a comment here. He asked any updates on when companies are going to get rolling again on mailing out redemptions. Panini, I know, has announced that they are starting to fulfill stuff as they can. I don't know if they're doing as many, but I know Panini has started. I'm assuming Topps and everyone else will as well. Rich, I actually wanted to ask you a question regarding this stuff. I'm glad you called in when we were talking about this, because there was an email that was put out regarding Mosaic where it said that the print runs had been slashed. Now, I haven't seen any confirmation. I don't think there has been any from any companies that, it had been, but do you know, or have you heard anything? I know, living near the printing and knowing a little bit more about that side of it, have you heard anything about them having to slash any of the print runs, or maybe some of these products that are coming out soon, maybe having a limited run?
But it makes sense, especially if you have to open up the printing presses, let's say at 50% capacity.
Right.
If you only can have 50% of your employees in the building, then you can't produce as many cards. I'm trying to go through the memory of when I did the tour as part of the industry summit a few years ago.
Right.
And there were some people, some of the areas, the physical distancing was already there. Other parts of it, the physical distancing now has to be re-engineered. So it's very possible that they have to have less cards produced because you can only have less people legally in the certain areas. As I said, I only know the one by me, which is GCI. I've never been to the Cardamundi printing press. Right. But if you think about it in terms of how the people are set up, that makes some sense.
Yeah.
And to answer Kin's question, believe it or not, it's not anybody in the Twitter world or the podcast world that created Uncle Rich It's my old friend Nigel Spill in California who was calling me Uncle Rich 25 years ago. And I talked to him on Facebook about once a month. And I told him, wait a second. Well, he goes, well, you're not the oldest person that calls me Uncle Rich. He goes, I'm the first. I goes, oh, we'll do it that way. So,
nice. So I always wondered that. So
I think, myself and Tim and Steph, I think because Rich and I have this love-hate, love, hate, love, respect, father, son, uncle, nephew, cousin, neighbor over the window that don't park on my side of the street relationship, depending on what the day is. And nothing but respect. Rich and I have went back and forth. One rule that we've kind of never talked about that we've always had is neither one is wrong.
Somebody screen grab that.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things where
say wrong.
Yeah, it was. Well, your screen even paused and kind of glitched for a minute as you tried to say wrong.
My computer said, "Is everything okay? Do we need?"
Yeah, your computer didn't even want you to say it.
But that's the thing. We always kind of gave that moniker of he's like our uncle that just shows up to the party even when we don't want him. But
right.
But we love him forever and ever. Yeah.
But I think we, and I mentioned this in the comments, and my thought for the week is the podcasting group is basically a community. There's a lot of communities within the hobby. I was talking to an old friend of mine the other day who basically does 99% vintage cards. Mm-hmm. And is the last person in the world I ever thought would have said, I love the community I see involved with the case breakers and the people who follow them. And I was driving when he told me that, and I almost hit a light pole.
Yeah.
Because he understood just how important community is. And the people who were commenting and listening, we appreciate all of them because they're part of our hobby community too. Mike's friend and his daughter, Clint and his daughter Daisy, if I remember reading that correctly, they're part of our hobby community too. And so my thought for the day is we can get frustrated with each other. I can go with Ben with respect back and forth about his Maguire, why he should sell some of his 6,087 Maguires and cash it in and buy other stuff for his collection. Right. But it's still a community. And it's so fun.
It is.
Yeah, and that's what's great about this is, I've had people tell us in private, you're the expert on this subject. I'm like, I'm just a guy that collects. and all of us are just guys or gals that collect. None of us are experts. Yeah. I mean, Rich obviously is more of the Mount Rushmore of the hobby, so he would be more in that expert class.
Sure.
Along with his good friend Dr. Jim Beckett and a handful of others that contribute still to this day with the hobby. But what's beautiful about the hobby, what's beautiful about online communities, speaking about communities in general, podcasters, we learn from each other, we respect each other. We came together for the Hobby Hotline as a collaborative group because we're all friends. We talk personally, away from the card community. And it's just like, the more we can grow this community in a healthy way, the better. That's why I like getting into Twitter debates because it's all done initially with respect. It's to incite It's to incite people's fire, right? And that's why
that's what we hope.
Combative, right?
That's what we hope social media. Yeah, that's what we hope social media is going to be. That's what we hope we can get out of it, and that's what I do enjoy watching, reading y'all's debates. They are great. We actually do have another caller to bring in, and awesome. That is Mr. Chris Gilmore. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Oh wow, it went to 5 guys. What's going on?
5 guys now. But I've actually got a question for everybody. Chris, did you have a question, or were you just calling in to join the show?
I'm just coming in to say hi to Uncle Rich. What's going on, Rich?
Hey, Chris. Hey, how are you, my friend? I haven't seen you for a long time. I follow your posts on Facebook, but I haven't really talked to you in, 3-4 years now?
No, we talked at the National a little bit.
That's true.
Well, regarding... while I have you, Gilmore, you can jump in on this because, guys, while we were talking about the release calendar, there's something I wanted to ask. Well, now all 5 of you, or 4 of you, because I'm not asking myself. But you mentioned Ben how many releases were coming out just by Topps. and coming out so quickly. Panini's putting out their releases as well. You had Chronicles already drop. You've got a bunch more coming. With everything dropping so close together and them kind of making up for lost time, how do you see this playing out in the market? Do you think this is going to be something where all the products are going to be hot? Or do you think, some are really going to suffer and there might be some incredible deals because some maybe get overlooked by some of the massive releases that, everyone's chasing that $100,000 Bowman instead of chasing the, whatever the other product may be?
Personally, I think that there may be some short-term glitches where some stuff gets overlooked, but in the long term, I think it's all going to eventually play out. People are still going to, there's not going to be a lack of information on what's been released and what is out there. It may take people a little bit of time to catch up, both from their bandwidth as well as their financial bandwidth to be able to pick it up. But I think there's not really a risk of anything falling through the cracks over the long term. I mean, from what we're seeing with junk wax era stuff and the prices that those have gone up, the way that we're seeing secondary or semi-stars start to see their prices increase and go up, I don't see a risk of there being a long-term release or a release that gets overlooked in the long term.
Yeah, and to Mike's point, I think you're going to see the market flooded. So yeah, there are going to be some things that fall through the cracks. But the one thing we all have to keep in mind is, as a general rule, not every consumer is after every product.
Right.
If Museum Collection came out at the same times as Archive Signature Series and Mosaic, you have different sports. You have different release, mediums. You're going to have retail only. You're going to have hobby only. You're going to have, online exclusives. It's just. It's going to suck for people that do need to dabble into everything, like myself. I need to get all of the A's cards. It's going to be overwhelming for maybe 60 days. But I think initially, right now, people are just looking for something to buy. And I think personally, that's why we're seeing this spike in junk wax, because people have run out of new stuff from 2020 and even back to 2019. But they're going back, and these documentaries are helping because it's rekindling your love for that era of sports.
Yeah. Gilmore, Mr. Klein.
Hey, I think everybody's got it pretty much right. I always like to say we don't know what we don't know.
Sure.
But if you have 5 products come out, and this is an exaggeration, but if you have 5 products come out the same day, there may be an immediate loser. Well, the immediate loser may be the longtime winner if it's really printed in short supply, because all of a sudden everybody forgot about it, and then when everybody goes back to buy it, it's all gone. Where sometimes the winners get saved. Even in the junk wax era, excuse me, if you were really looking, for 91 tops in quantity, you can find it. You're never going to find the same quantity of 91 score. Not as many people, nearly as many people broke it. It's not that there's anything rare or scarce on 91 score, but try to find 1,091 score Ken Griffey Jr.'s. Try to find 1,091 tops Ken Griffey Jr.'s. You'll find the tops. I bet you'll have to struggle a while to get the score. I mean, as I said, there's still enough out there. But on a more global, more modern level, the same thing could very well happen if you have several products hit the same week.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of these products besides like the web release of T206 printed to order? Because if they're not, then actual demand really doesn't mean a whole lot for the amount of product on the market, right?
Yeah, because it'll be there. It'll be there whenever.
Yeah, it'll end up as a closeout on Peach State or Southern Hobby shelves one day, and then get pushed out on sales sheets at a ridiculous price. But yeah, it's not really a scarcity thing for the product. It's more of a perceived value thing. Like if a product starts off in the hole, it often has trouble digging out unless something happens to the checklist and one of the players blows up and people all of a sudden start chasing it.
Yeah,
right.
And a lot of times, some of that product might be, to use a fantasy football analogy, you'll see runs on kickers and defenses in the mid rounds. You got your kicker, I better get mine. Even though we know the best kicker and the 15th best kicker over the course of a football season is so marginally small. So it might be one of those things that if a secondary, third, fourth product that got forgotten about is sitting on shelves, and then all of a sudden somebody starts gobbling it up, and word gets out, then now everybody goes and grabs it, and it'll be really fascinating to watch. Like Rich said, we don't know what we don't know. The next 3-6 months in the hobby are going to be really fascinating to see how the market reacts, especially once everybody gets back to work and life goes back to quote unquote normal.
I've seen runs on
there on the score Griffies.
Yeah. What were you saying, Chris?
I've seen runs on products started simply because one retailer just said, "Hey, I wonder if we can raise the price on this." Okay, let's raise the price. Right. So all of a sudden they raise their price. Dave and Adam sees that. Well, we're raising our price. Steel City raises their price to match.
Right.
Nothing happened to the product. There wasn't an increase in demand for the product, but everybody thinks there were because the price went up.
And that's why, Chris, I'm sure you've seen my tweets where I say, if you didn't want it yesterday, you don't want it today. But a lot of times people, they think they do, right? Well, Chris, if you bought it, damn it, I have to have it. Why do I have to have it? Because Chris had to have it. Well, the difference is I'm not Chris, and I'm not you, Mike, or Drew, or Rich, and I don't collect in the same way. So why should I be influenced? Because that's how the hobby. It's very reactionary. It's one of those things like, oh, hey, wait a minute, look, a butterfly. And it really does sum up. We see it all the time. All of us see the reactionary stuff. Like, why do you need this? Because somebody else bought it. Why do we need this prospect from Bowman? Yeah, it's really the fear of missing out. I don't want to get left at the station. But the hobby really is like the bus system, right? If you miss this bus, don't worry, another one will be along shortly.
All right, we actually have a caller real quick, so we can fit 6 in here. So we're gonna Brady bunch it up and add in who's your card joining the show.
Good morning,
What's
everybody.
up, man?
Good morning.
Hey,
how's it going? What can we do for you, bud?
I don't have a lot today. I wanted to stop mowing just to let you know I'm out mowing today. And
very nice.
I just want to tell you I enjoy the show. A lot of gratitude to all of you. I am new to the investing part, a long-time collector like everybody. But just want to say thank you. That's all I've got today. Just a lot of gratitude to everybody.
Well, you're
thank
welcome,
you, man.
Yeah, please call back anytime when you have something to talk about, or if you just want to sit with us for a few minutes and BS.
Enjoy that mowing, man.
Stop mowing and do that more often. Saturday's my mow day, but I appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for calling in.
When you're not mowing, really come join us, okay?
Thanks,
bud. Connection, but I'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you.
Thank
you. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, it's an awesome call. Thank you, guys. We really do appreciate the support we've gotten from everybody over the last, 15 episodes. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
I don't know about y'all, but when you said his name, my first thought was, well, who is your card?
Look
at
Chris.
That's a different
Chris
thing.
Bringing in puns from Vintage Breaks. Gotta love it.
I pun a lot. Sorry. Wait, I'm not sorry at all.
All right. So, Mike, you had where was I going with that? We were talking about the new release calendars and everything. Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to touch on the new releases and everything that's coming out?
No, I'm encouraged that we're starting to get some new product and some new releases that are going to be found in stores. I think that's good for everybody. I know Panini has released their calendar, or at least they updated a few of their releases for the next several weeks as well. And so it seems like we're going to start to get a steady flow of both baseball, basketball, football releases, as well as maybe even some soccer. Upper Deck's been still putting out their normal stuff all along the way. And so that was encouraging to see as well. I think it's also interesting that they had a little different approach and didn't get impacted near the same way from a production situation. So no, that's all I really have to say about the release calendar.
Cool.
Yeah, and Release calendars are really, I mean, to put them even in pencil is probably an overstatement, right? Things move around so much, and production facilities are going to play that. Distribution channels. You have all kinds of third-party logistics, which are going to play a huge part. Our LCS is going to be open to customers. There are so many variables that might affect that. But to Mike's point, it's one of those things that when we all saw Ryan's tweet saying, "Hey, here's what the next 30 days is going to look like from Tops," it was like, this is encouraging. This is nice.
Absolutely. And we've actually got two callers in the queue, guys. We'll get you guys in one at a time here shortly. We're gonna add one in right now. We've got TX Car Dude. How's it going, man?
Good morning. Good. Howdy, Uncle Rich. How are you doing today, sir?
What's going on, man?
What Kobe did you pull today?
No Kobe's, unfortunately. Having a blast listening to your podcast, Mike. It's an honor and a privilege to talk to you. I do say that the 85 McGuire is the true McGuire, by the way.
All right.
The entire hobby loves to troll me.
So my question is I'm a huge Topps fan. Unfortunately, I'm getting more and more frustrated a little bit with them as the reaction has been slower. But where do you go to find and gather as much information as possible from Topps, like the release schedule date and what's coming up in the next year to 2 years? And like I'm with the hobby, I'm trying to get ahead of the hobby so that I can learn of what's coming out in the next. You're shaking your head.
Well,
Ben,
one thing I can tell you before anyone else can tell you, I'm sure everyone has something to say on this, but one thing I can tell you is trying to get information out of Topps. Any information out of Topps is not the easiest. Even just a very simple "How are you doing?" can be difficult. When you're trying to actually start into getting into predicting things and going into the future, that can get incredibly difficult. But in terms of like current release calendars and stuff, you can go to lots of different places like Cardboard Connection, lots of
Blowout Cards has it.
Blowout. Lots of places have a release calendar, but I mean, right now, take those release calendars with a grain of salt. Obviously, with everything being pushed back, but in terms of being able to jump ahead like a year or so, I mean, you can pretty much basically just kind of predict, say, if they're going to put out the exact same products, they might come out around the exact same time next year, but they like to add new products and take some away. So other than that, there's always going to be some surprises.
A lot of times around the industry summit in February, I believe that's when that typically is, they'll often have some information released. This year, they were a little more tight-lipped. I know in 2019, they actually put their preliminary baseball release calendar out at that event. And so we had an idea in February when their main products were going to be released throughout the entire rest of the year. There are a few retail-only releases that weren't part of that calendar, but pretty much anything that had a hobby presence was in that release calendar. Now, they didn't offer that this year, but that's one avenue. And also, another thing we won't have this year, but at the National, they have a Q&A, and a lot of times there's a few questions at the Q&A that will touch on what some upcoming products are, or what some upcoming plans are. So those are another couple options to keep in mind.
Well, and real quick, I'm somebody that has to get into every baseball product because there's going to be these cards, and that's how I've chosen to collect. To try to get ahead of the hobby or Topps specifically, I was just going to kind of scoot over in my chair and say, why don't you sit here? I've got a seat warmed up. We can sit together because I think most of us are trying to. And once you think you've gotten ahead and you have that release calendar in front of you, then you type in a player, right? You type in last year, 2019, I typed in 2019 Mark McGuire, and next thing I know, Topps Fire released. And now I'm seeing Topps Fire, and it's like, we didn't know. There's so many retail exclusives that drop during a day, and even though I'd like to say I'm very involved and in tune with what's going on, these I learned about them on eBay, and then I hit up Ryan Cracknell, and I'm like, hey, do you have a Topps Fire checklist for me? He goes, what do you mean? And if I'm not, one of the more in tune, I'm assuming Ryan is. That's what he does for a living, and he doesn't have the information. So the second you think you can get ahead of Tops is the second that 3 products are going to drop that you had no idea about.
Well, y'all had Terry on last week. I didn't know if Tracy. Sorry, excuse me, Tracy. Y'all had him on last week. Is there, in my industry, that's the best way to go, is to make relationships with the sales reps or the field, the product managers. Have y'all tried, or do you have relationships within the industry product managers? Would that be another good route to try and see if and at least get to I know they're not going to give you industry secret knowledge, whatever you call that, but at least keep you up to date with what's going on. I mean, Ben, what's been your experience with that?
Honestly,
Rich is probably the best to fill this question, honestly.
Well, and I know because I work with 10, 12, 15 of them, some number of and I don't even ask my friends at Panini, who I've known for 15, 20, 25 years, what they're doing, because that's their business. I do know that when Dr. Beckett has each year what he'll call hobby dinners, where he invites 15, 20 people over for dinner, usually a Monday night in January. And, and he posted them as part of his podcasts. And, and Panini was talking about how the gestation for any product is 11 to 12 months, and things change in the 11 to 12 months. So even if you know the people, things can change. That somebody in upper management could decide midway through a product, we don't want this. And it's gone, and it goes away.
Yeah.
You have to replace it with somebody else. So even if you know the people, it's not the same, because they're not making the final decision. You really have to know what the bottom line is, what the numbers, what the economics are, and I hate to keep bringing up economics with a PhD candidate in Mr. Ben there. You are a PhD candidate, aren't you?
I will be once I take a few more classes. But
okay, so you're on your way to a PhD. But, economics are sadly important in this business.
Yes.
And if the trajectory says don't do something, don't do it. So so even if you know somebody, it doesn't really help. But
and
with an 11 to 12, I will tell you one thing I do know for about 99% sure. February 2021, in one way or another, there will be flagship Tops, and 2 weeks or 3 weeks after flagship Tops, there'll be Tops Heritage.
Yep.
Other than
Absolutely.
that, don't ask me what the Tops 2021 calendar is going to be, because I don't know.
Yeah. And regarding what Rich was just saying, I had on Let Me at That Podograph, we had Panini's Micah from Panini, who's the product manager for baseball, on, and he was discussing a lot about how many people are involved in those decisions, like Rich was saying. And it's far from, 2 or 3. It is a massive team, and there are a lot of people and a lot of places along that line where a product can just be snap gone in an instant, right when you think it's about to be finished. But TX Car Dude, thanks for the call, man. We